What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. And I know starting tomorrow on Saturday, we have the NFL divisional playoffs, a bunch of exciting games and matchups. I'm looking forward to seeing who is going to advance. But in this video, I want to stay on the wild card round, and I want to talk about two teams in particular. And those two teams are the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles, the two NFC East representatives in the NFL playoffs, who both decided to go ahead and lay an egg on wildcard weekend and have their seasons end in utter embarrassment and humiliation. And first, let's start with the Cowboys. They played host to the Green Bay Packers, 7th seed in the NFC playoffs, youngest team in the NFL, and mind you this, no 7th seed since the NFL changed the format to have an extra playoff team has won a playoff game. So every single team that was a 7th seed that got into the playoffs, they didn't win a game. And the Cowboys went ahead and decided to make history in a bad way for them by allowing the Green Bay Packers to come into their house, AT&T Stadium, which is really Green Bay's home away from home. They've never lost in that stadium since it was built. Super Bowl, regular season, doesn't matter. They seem to not know how to lose a game in that stadium. And they just absolutely obliterated the Cowboys. Aaron Jones had 3 touchdowns. Jordan Love threw 3 touchdowns. Dak threw 2 picks. One of them was a pick 6. CeeDee Lamb was completely boxed up until the second half when he and Dak were putting up garbage time numbers. If nobody watched the game and saw the final score, you would still say the Cowboys got embarrassed, but you'd be like, oh, maybe it wasn't that bad. 48-32, maybe it was close, and Green Bay just got a couple of big plays that allowed them to extend the lead. This game was over at halftime. The Packers went up 27-7 at halftime. They were up 27-0 at one point. And really, I want to focus on this from Dallas's perspective because Green Bay's still in. They're going to play the Niners. We'll see how they do. But the Cowboys this year looked like, I honestly thought it was their year. If they were going to go to the NFC Championship game, this year was going to be the year. You get a home playoff game. You're the 2 seed. If you win against the Packers, you're likely going to host the Lions in the second round. And to me, that's a very winnable game to go to the NFC Championship, but they couldn't even win one playoff game, one and done. Dak had arguably the best season of his NFL career. He was in MVP talks for a large portion of the season. CeeDee Lamb was very close to Triple Crown, leader in catches, yards, and touchdowns at the wide receiver spot. They weren't as consistent with the running game this year. Tony Pollard, it was his first full season as RB1, and he didn't look as good as he did as a second option at running back. So I think that's something that's going to be addressed going into the offseason, or at least I think it should be addressed if they want to be better next year. But the point is, you had the defense, Micah Parsons, who had another great season. Deron Bland, NFL leader in interceptions, broke a record for most pick sixes in a season. The point is, the Cowboys had everything going for them once again. They fooled people once again. They did all this stuff in the regular season, but when they really needed to beat a worthy opponent, they couldn't do it. They got absolutely destroyed by the Bills. They couldn't beat the Niners. They lost to the Dolphins, who really, they're the Cowboys of the AFC. They can't beat any good teams either. So it's like when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object when those two teams played, and the Cowboys ended up losing that game. So really, the Cowboys should have beaten the Packers, and they didn't. And they are going to have a long offseason ahead of them. And the question is, why did they decide to bring back head coach Mike McCarthy? Many thought that with guys like Jim Harbaugh and Bill Belichick in the running for head coaching jobs in the offseason, big names, that the Cowboys should move on from McCarthy and hire one of those two guys to be the leader of the team. And really, they didn't. I think that they kept Mike McCarthy, or really Jerry Jones decided to keep Mike McCarthy, is because Jerry Jones would rather the Cowboys be a good to very good team, fringe Super Bowl contender, and be the most talked about team in the league while he's the face, than for them to be a perennial Super Bowl contender with an elite head coach, the face of the franchise type of head coach like Bill Belichick or Jim Harbaugh. Because those two guys to me have really big egos, deservedly so, because they both had a lot of success. Jim Harbaugh just won a national championship at Michigan. He took the 49ers to the Super Bowl. He's done some other really great stuff as a college head coach with Stanford, other schools. And Bill Belichick's success speaks for itself. 6-time Super Bowl, or really 7-time champion, or no, 6-time Super Bowl champion. Brady won 6 with the Patriots. 6-time champ at head coach. And I think Jerry didn't bring one of those guys in because he was scared that there might be a Jimmy Johnson situation where there's this big name head coach that's getting all the credit for the Cowboys' success, and Jerry's just sitting in the back. What about me? What about me? And he didn't want that to happen, because What other owner in the NFL do you know that is also the general manager of the team? What other NFL owner is taking questions post-game after a win or a loss? Most people don't even know who any of the NFL owners are besides maybe Jerry Jones, Robert Kraft, Mark Davis maybe for the Raiders. So unless it's not a big name NFL owner, you really don't even know who is owning the team, because their job is just to sit back. You own the team, but let everybody else do their job. And I think that is the ultimate reason why the Cowboys, really, as long as Jerry Jones is making all the decisions, can never truly contend for a Super Bowl. If you have the league leader in passing touchdowns, an elite receiver like CeeDee Lamb, the talent that they have on this roster, there's no excuse for them to just get absolutely blitzed by the Packers in Wild Card Weekend at home. You had everything going for you, and they just couldn't get it done. So really, the question now for the Cowboys is, can they ever break through a year? Maybe there's like a key injury or something that helps them out. Maybe they just find a spark one year. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be with Mike McCarthy as head coach, and he's coming back. It is the final year of his contract, so, and usually the Cowboys are pretty good about letting coaches play out their contracts. They let Jason Garrett coach the final year of his contract. They're doing the same thing for McCarthy. So maybe Jerry Jones just wants to give him one more year, and if they do the same thing or worse, he'll try and find another head coach. But it's not too surprising that they decided to keep Mike McCarthy at head coach, because Mike McCarthy isn't a guy who is going to challenge Jerry Jones' ego. Jerry Jones, if he hires someone like a Bill Belichick, who made a lot of the decisions roster-wise for the Patriots, he was basically the GM of the Patriots, or a guy like Jim Harbaugh, guys who have really big egos and aren't going to be pushed around by an owner of an NFL team, he knew that he wouldn't be able to get the type of credit that he would want to personally get for the Cowboys' success. So another year, another epic playoff collapse by the Dallas Cowboys, another smoke screen of a regular season of, I guess, beating up on bad teams. I've never seen a pro sports team that's as good at beating up on bad teams as the Dallas Cowboys. If they know that they are playing an opponent that is inferior to them, they will absolutely destroy them. Like football, basketball, like any sport, I don't think I've ever seen a team that's as good at beating up on inferior opponents as the Cowboys. But then when they meet a team that's at close or better than them, they usually never seem to win. I can't remember the last time that Dak beat a very, very good team. I'm thinking maybe some of the wins against the Eagles. I'm thinking him as a rookie going into Pittsburgh and beating the Steelers. That's really the game that comes to mind. He did go into Lambeau and beat Aaron Rodgers his rookie year. He just doesn't have very many signature wins against teams that are at the Cowboys level or better than them. So, and the Cowboys have quarterback questions too, because they got to figure out whether or not they're going to extend Dak. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about the season for the Cowboys. Another disaster, another epic failure. But now I want to shift to the Eagles, because they also got embarrassed Wild Card Weekend. They lasted 24 hours longer than the Cowboys did, because they went into Tampa and got absolutely trounced by the Buccaneers. They couldn't get anything going on offense. Granted, A.J. Brown was out of the game, so Jalen Hurts didn't have much to work with at wide receiver. Tampa Bay really zoned in on covering Devontae Smith. He still had a great game, but Jalen Hurts was dropping back and looking for Devontae Smith every single play, and they just really couldn't get anything going. Missed tackles on defense. The tush push didn't even work for a 2-point conversion. So that's how you knew it was pretty much finished for the Eagles, when that play's not working. And so when you look at where they were last year, they went to the Super Bowl. They looked super dominant. They clinched the #1 seed. They had home field advantage throughout the entire playoffs. They beat the Giants in the divisional round, beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship. Granted, Brock Purdy did get injured. The Niners were basically playing without a quarterback, because I think Josh Johnson was the backup at the time. He also got injured. And then they went toe-to-toe with Mahomes and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and you could argue that they were a play or two away, take out maybe the Jalen Hurts fumble and some other negative plays, that they were the better team than Kansas City, and they probably should have won that game. But it is what it is, and you know when you lose a Super Bowl, there's either a Super Bowl hangover or it's so hard to get back to the Super Bowl. Even if you winning or losing a Super Bowl, it's just so hard to get back there. That's why we haven't had a repeat champion in forever, because it's hard to build like a dynasty kind of team like the Warriors in football, because there's just so many components that make a team go from offense, defense to special teams. Too many guys. It's not a 5-on-5 thing like basketball. There's just so much going on that makes everything go. But when you look at what the Eagles did this year, they started, I think it was 10-1. They had the number 1 seed. Basically, it was theirs to lose because they started the season 10-1, I believe, and they had the easiest strength of schedule remaining in the league. Some of their notable games, they got to play the Giants twice in the last 3 weeks of the season. The Giants are one of the worst teams in the league, and they got to play the Cardinals. They lost to the Giants once, and they lost to Arizona. So that's the reason why Dallas was able to scoop up the division at the end. And really, the Eagles, with basically everything in there going for them, they couldn't find a way to get it done. And they made DC changes mid-season. Their defense, the main thing was their defense. It was not as good as it was last year. You had the D-line, guys on the D-line like Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, rookie they drafted out of Georgia. Those guys were all good this year, but their secondary was just getting torched and exposed all season long. It was not playing at the same level as it was last year. So that's a question mark that the Eagles are going to have going into the offseason as well. And Jalen Hurts, I believe in Jalen Hurts. I think he's a franchise quarterback. I don't think they have any questions there. But really the big question that is facing the Eagles is, are they going to make a change at head coach? Because even though Nick Sirianni took the team to the Super Bowl last year, the NFL and life comes at you fast. You got to produce every single year. You have to constantly be updating your resume. And a team with the talent level like the Philadelphia Eagles, to not even win a playoff game and to finish the regular season in the fashion that they did, there's a winning standard now in Philadelphia. They've been to the Super Bowl a couple of times in the last few years. That Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, like those higher ups, they're not going to accept that. So I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with Nick Sirianni. And he's kind of a guy that a lot of people had a lot of questions about his personality, his maturity, being a head coach. And those questions also are making people think now that he lost the locker room, because I said this in my last video, a head coach is supposed to be a leader of men, the leader of the team. And if you can't keep your locker room together, they shouldn't really be having that job, because a lot of the Eagles' struggles, it looked like it came down to effort, especially against the Buccaneers. They were missing so many tackles. It was pretty ridiculous in terms of what we saw out there. So yeah, the Cowboys and the Eagles, a lot of questions for those two teams going into the offseason. So that is going to be it for this video. I really appreciate you guys keeping up with my content, watching the video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that stuff, and find the rest of my content linked in the description. I do want to start making some NBA videos again. There's a lot going on right now. The trade deadline is coming up. We just had our first big trade. The Pacers got Pascal Siakam to pair with Tyrese Halliburton. They sent some first-round draft picks and Bruce Brown to the Raptors. It was a 3-team trade, so I like it for Indiana. I think it makes them better, but I can dive into that in a later video and some other content. So yeah, make sure to find the rest of my content linked in the description. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.